It's never about the money. My grandfather used to tell me, why do you need more than you need? And that's a big, big question to deal with. But once you have that answer, you live a good life. The only healthy way to live is to serve your way through stress. As an entrepreneur, as an employee, as a parent or a spouse or a child, and stress is inevitable. The cause of stress is usually we're afraid of failing, we're afraid of rejection, we're afraid of risk and the unknown. In 2014, my wife, Diana, got diagnosed with leukemia. It was a battle, a couple of years, and then went to remission. And we thought we were good. We hit the 5-year mark, and it was like they say, if you get the 5 years of remission, you're in good shape. Right as COVID was hitting, which was bizarre, the leukemia came back and it took her. And so my mom calls me and says, hey, Auntie Sarah wants me to ask you one question. I go, what's that question? She goes, well, do you trust God? And I paused and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I trust God. And then my mom said, okay, here's the word, trust God. And then she hung up. We somehow have told ourselves, especially as Americans, I need to be successful. I need to be significant. I need to be in control. Those are all good things. And I'm going to say, no, they're not. If there's no problem to solve, you have no value. Everybody's got a small problem and they want you to fix it, or a small group of people have a big problem and they'll spend money on that. So your innovation is anchored in solving somebody else's problem.
Yo, Holy Hustle podcast. Welcome back to the show. This is the first podcast of the new year, and I'm so excited to have my good friend Tim on the call. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good, man. I about 15 minutes ago went to go grab this cup because because hopefully by the time this airs, the Niners would have beat the Packers. That is the goal. That's who we're playing this week. Do you have any predictions, any worries about, because we both share
we love the Niners. We love the Niners over here. I think we're going to do well. I think it's like all the hype that went about how, and God bless you, Dallas Cowboy fans, but everybody talked about how well you were going to do in that game and how amazing it was. And then it didn't go that way. I think that's going to happen to the Packers. Now that's just me speaking purely as a fan, not as an NFL insider, but I'm going Niners all the way. And I think it'll be a snoozer at this end of the game. That's my hope.
I hope you're right. I was so excited that the Dallas Cowboys didn't fire Mike McCarthy.
Actually, I think that's a really smart thing. Yeah. Well, no, I think he's a good coach.
However, I don't think I don't know. He had some big issues in the end of the year, last few games. And so I think you're right. They won a Super Bowl, right? He won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And so anyways, and then Harbaugh, our old coach, Harbaugh might go to the Chargers.
Is that the Chargers? Is that what they're talking about?
So they're talking about the Chargers. It's LA. It's out of all the teams that need a coach that have the best quarterback, I would say it's Justin Herbert for sure. Allegedly, they're supposed to announce that Belichick is supposed to go to the Falcons, which is weird.
That's an interesting choice. What? They've got good ownership, but maybe that's what he's looking for. He wants the ownership relationship.
That's probably what he's looking for. Don't have the team yet, but maybe some young core guys. But we share a love for the 49ers. We actually met a little over, about 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a decade.
You were on the board, right? You were on the board of
I was on the board of trustees. So the Northwest University, I'm an alum, and they had two boards. They had a board of directors and then a board of trustees. And the board of trustees were more the business board for the school, and I was on the board of trustees. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone that talked about Tim Ohai was like, there was this reverence. There was this like, dude, this guy, like if you're a business guy, Alejandro, you got to meet him. And like everyone just hyped you up, and they all just loved you. I got a chance to hear you speak in 2012 or 13. And I loved that we were in Seattle. The school's in Seattle, and you were hating on some Seahawks fans, which I loved. You were giving some folks some hard times. This is before they went to the Super Bowl, so no one was really a fan back then. So my
So that's
Seahawk
the
fans,
thing.
I'm so sorry.
When I was in Seattle for college in the 90s, it was all Mariners great. No one cared about the Seahawks. And then I go back, I fly up for this meeting, and all I do is see these, I start seeing 12 flags everywhere. And everybody's into their Seahawks, but nobody's talking the Mariners anymore. I'm going, how bandwagon is that? So apologies, Seattle. I'm sorry.
I love
sorry,
Seattle.
not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. When it comes, that's the only thing, Tim. I think I'm pretty level headed for the most part. People cut me off, whatever. Like, I'm not going to have road rage and run after people, whatever. But if there's my pastor texted me a month ago and we lost, and I remember who we lost to, and he's like, because I was supposed to go to the movies with him, and they lost. I said, hey, I got to watch this game. Sorry, I didn't realize it was Sunday Night Football. And so he said, we should have went to the movies so your boys wouldn't have lost. And I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna go to this church anymore. I get so offended. I don't know why. And this is like, I'm like a 12-year-old kid. I get very offended. If there's a way to really get under my skin. Like, my buddy asked me to go, he's a Packers fan, to go watch the game at his house. I'm like, I don't even want to be around him. If he's cheering for the other team. So I'm terrible to watch a game with. It's the only thing that makes me really sensitive. But the last 2 Super Bowls, I cried. And you and I grew up with like Montana and Rice, and then Young and Rice. Like, we had these glory years.
And even Steve Young, right? And Terrell Owens. Or Terrell Owens. So let me back up. So it's interesting to me, and this might be even a segue for our conversation, is we get these emotional connections that we then use our brains to justify the emotions. Right. So we almost, we get a feeling, and then we just do anything we can to kind of justify what we're feeling. And a pastor can become an enemy because they triggered our buttons. I got triggered. And like, they're good people. And to be blunt, like, Packer fans are some of the best. They're super cool.
They are the best. They're like, they are the best.
I'll throw Steeler fans in there too. Steeler fans are awesome. They're like, hey, good game, and they're not bad at all. They just want to see their team win. But then we get this emotional bump, this emotional nudge, and we just start going negative. And I mean, that's a big part of what I do as a coach now. So now I do executive coaching and consulting with companies around how they're executing their strategy. And it's amazing how often the root cause issue is what's going on in their head and what's going on in their heart.
Well, when I met you, you were this highly, like, it just like, dude, there was this level of reverence that I still have for you, man. Ton of respect. Guy travels the world. When I picture you, when they were hyping you up and I learned about you, I'm like, this is a guy that they fly, to like Australia or New Zealand or Singapore or whatever to go fix the problem. Like, they bring in this guy, and he's the only guy that can do this one thing to help turn around country. So can you tell folks a little bit about like the background? Because I'm really excited to talk about this, because you had a very successful career. And this last year, you decided to become a full-time kind of coach, consultant, entrepreneur, which is really exciting to like, hey man, I could do another 10 years and get my pension, do all that kind of stuff. But you decided, man, I'm gonna actually just go become an entrepreneur. So can you talk a little bit about what you did in the career world?
Yeah. So it's a journey, right? So let's go back. I started out as a school teacher and a youth pastor. I grew up in Hawaii. I grew up in Kailua Kona on the island of Hawaii, Moku Okeawe, if you want to get real technical.
Maybe.
And I left when my wife and I had our first child, our son, Kainoa, was born, and we were both teaching and not making any money. And we're like, well, do you want to just pick up 2 jobs each and maybe we'll hang out on Sundays? Or should we look at moving? And we moved. We prayed about it and moved to Northern California, where Diana was from, and her parents lived. And I wound up going corporate. Never intended to go corporate. Never thought that would be my path ever. I wound up in corporate and did really well, and then got into a global position in a company called Shell Oil, and I was running support for 5 different businesses in North America, and then mentoring Latin America. And then I was the global focal point for marketing, development, skills development, and talent development globally. And I was living on a plane and living in hotel rooms and, home on weekends. And it was unsustainable. And at that time, we then had our daughter as well. So in 2007, I took the initial leap into the entrepreneur world. I know the entrepreneur world well because in 2007 I left, and crazy stories there. I mean, I had my first customer die, literally. I had somebody all lined up for a business CEO of a manufacturing company in Southern California, got pancreatic cancer, gone in 2 months. And I'll never forget, I flew down to LA. I'm sitting with the new CEO of the company, and really nice guy. And he's just like, Tim, he was like in shell shock. His face was just drained of color. And he's going, I wish I could engage you right now, but I don't even know where all the passwords are. It went so fast. We lost, because the guy was the founder of the company, a wonderful, wonderful human. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I'm going to go out on my own. And I had nothing. That was my big rock. I'm like, oh, I'll transition out of corporate and I'll have a client lined up. I had nothing, with total faith journey. And it's funny. I had my auntie call my mom and said, I got a word for Tim. And so my mom calls me and says, hey, Auntie Sarah, has a word for you. I'm like, what is this? What is it? She goes, well, it's just real simple. So I got to ask you one question. She wants me to ask you one question. I go, what's that question? She goes, well, do you trust God? I said, yeah, I trust God. She goes, no. Do you trust God? I had to pause and think about, that's a big question. And do I really, really trust? Because trust, it's all in or all out. There's no middle ground. And I paused and I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I trust God. And then my mom said, okay, here's the word. Trust God. And then she hung up. She hung up on me right then. And I needed to hear that. I needed to hear, trust God, put your faith outside of yourself. And make a really long story short, I wound up, my next customer, the first customer I landed was Walmart. I got Walmart as my first customer. Wow. That's not normal, but then nothing about being an entrepreneur is normal. You never know what's going to happen. So I did that for 12 years, got recruited back into Silicon Valley, did that, had a global role. And that's where you're probably talking about more is, 3.5 years in Silicon Valley working in tech. And then so the other part of my story that, is really important is in 2014, my wife, Diana, got diagnosed with leukemia. And it was a battle for a couple of years, and then went into remission. And we thought we were good. We hit the 5-year mark. And it was like they say, if you get the 5 years of remission, you're in good shape. And then it came back. And after that mark. And so in 2020, right as COVID was hitting, which was bizarre, the leukemia came back and it took her. So she passed in 2020. And we could spend a lot of time talking about grief here on this if you want, but I went on a journey and realized, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And where do I want to be? And my heart's always been here in Hawaii. This is my home. Ku'uhome, as we say. This is my home. And I moved back here. I left Silicon Valley and I moved back to Hawaii and started going back to generating my own paychecks on faith again. And that's what I do now. And I love it. It's a delight. I know how to build a 7-figure business. Nine is aspirational. I know how to build a 7-figure business.
It's in there. That was in there, Tim.
And it is. It is. So I know I'll do it again. And maybe go for 8 figures. We'll see. But it's never about the money, right? My grandfather used to tell me, why do you need more than you need? And that's a big, big question to deal with. But once you have that answer, that you don't need more, you know what satisfies you, you live a good life.
Man, there's so much in there to unpack, man. Obviously, I followed the whole journey and the process of your wife passing away. How do you manage? Like for me, knowing myself, I'd be pretty upset with God. Very, very upset. You've helped a lot of people. We've connected about people you've helped on about grief. It's something I would say Western world really doesn't do a great job at. We talk a lot about mental health, but we don't talk a lot about grief. I think people are talking about it, but there's not a lot of great resources for it. Like how did you manage to still have faith during all that process of grief? Like how did you work through this? Who helped you? Love to learn a little bit more about that and how we can help others that are dealing with this as well.
I will say this, grief has definitely taken me on a faith journey, and what I believe today versus what I believed 5 years ago, very different. And yet I'm more, I'll use the word more spiritual than I've ever been. I believe that love and grace are what we live off of. And when we have a deficit of love and grace, we don't know how to be the best version of ourselves. And so that journey has, because when somebody at the hospital makes a mistake, do you go into blame mode and just become angry? And like Diana would tell me, like, stop, just don't. I live with these people in this hospital. I live with them. I spend more time with them than they spend with anyone else because they're my team. I don't need you blowing them up. And that was early in the cancer journey. And I'm a type A personality and blah, 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 blah. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, so I had to unlearn what I thought I had to do to be, quote, helpful and back way off. And I realized that the only healthy way to live is to serve your way through stress. And stress is inevitable. As an entrepreneur, it's inevitable. As an employee, as a parent, or a spouse or a child of a parent, stress it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So how we handle that stress is so critical. And so when I could reconcile stress and faith and bring those together and integrate them, then it was so much easier. And the fuel for getting through stress is having a serving mindset as opposed to a survival mindset. Because once you go into a survival mindset, you go to a part of your brain that's not as nice. It's really critical. It's negative. It shuts off the prefrontal cortex. It shuts off that creative, problem-solving, open-ended, kind of neutral mindset, and it makes life even worse. And that's something that, if you read anything like Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, a guy went through Auschwitz, for goodness sake, and that's his whole point. His whole point is like, you can get through this stuff if you have a sense of meaning and purpose. And that's the key to grief. I just talked to somebody 2 days ago. One of my suppliers, great guy, just lost a great grandmother who he was close with, and they had some tough relationship. And he knew about the cycle, the Kubler-Ross, there's the stages of grief, but there's one that got added that she endorsed that doesn't get talked about. And it's the last stage of how do you put meaning onto things? How do you give purpose to something? Because that purpose is what will give meaning to your grief. And so you can move forwards. And I say this because what do they say? 1 out of 9 people lost someone to COVID just in America. Right? There's a lot of unprocessed grief. And you're right. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't talk about it. We just kind of say, how long is long enough to grieve? Well, I'm like, how long are you going to love that person? And how long are they going to be gone? You may never get over it. And that's one of the most toxic things to say to somebody who's grieving is like, when are you going to get over it? Like, you don't get over it. You just learn to live with it. And I'm in a relationship now. I'm super excited. I've met a wonderful, wonderful lady. I still think about Diana. We talk about Diana, but Diana's not here, right? She's been gone for a while. So it's how you learn to live with that stuff, but translate that into how do you have meaning into what you're doing? And that's why Holy Hustle, right? That's this whole, how do you inject meaning into what you're doing so that when things are stressful, things are dark, things are hard, you're able to find the strength you need to get through it as the best version of yourself. Because unfortunately, I know a lot of people, even pastors of churches, who don't get through their stress as the best version of themselves.
Yeah, and that's interesting because over the last several years, I mean, we've seen a lot of pastors fail, and this is not like, hey, let's kick pastors down because that's the cool thing to do now. But the reality is, they don't talk about it. It's kind of the tough thing with being a leader, not just a pastor, but being a leader. You're kind of expected to have it all together.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people get into leadership a lot of times people get into becoming pastors is to, you know, a lot of them are broken, you know, and so they want to fix the world, and that's why they become a leader. And so a lot of pastors, a lot of leaders are broken. They're trying to fix something that they maybe lacked growing up, or something that they see in the world. And so you see a lot of pastors that have failed morally a lot over the last several years, these celebrity type pastors and things of that. But there's a lot of pastors that are pastors of 250 member churches that are stressing. They're working 50, 60 hours a week. They don't tell you they're preaching all the time. There's no Sabbath. What is that? You know, the Bible talks about what is that? They're not taking Sabbath. And so, you know, what for someone that's going, man, I'm listening to this and going, man, I've had some grief and I'm dealing with that. And I know I've dealt with that. I think I deal with that with my grandmother. But man, I'm running on Tim. I got to lead a congregation this weekend. Man, I got to lead my family where they barely see me. I got to preach to a congregation that probably doesn't even like my messages. You know, what advice do you have someone that maybe is like, I'm burning out, I'm stressing out, and what is their first step to kind of fix this thing?
So there's a bunch of ways to answer that. I'll start on one level. Let's just say just practical steps. Number one, get healthy first, physically healthy. If you're not sleeping, if you're not exercising and eating, I don't care. Look, I'm a little heavy, but goodness gracious, I've lost a ton of weight.
You have
cleaned up. Just clean up, because if you lose your health, you do not have the capacity to do the other things. And we always talk about, you know, this other, no. It's not family first. It's health first. Because if I'm too sick to serve my family, I've lived that path. I've lived that path. If I'm too physically sick or even emotionally sick to serve my family, I'm actually causing damage to the rest of my life. And so I always say, get healthy first. And then part of that includes what's going on in your head and what's going on in your heart. And so then from a more, I'll call it a leadership technique, you got to learn how to have a neutral mindset. You got to learn how to get neutral first. And everything's good and bad, but if you can't get neutral, you can't truly see what the problems are. You have no clarity. You're injecting all that bias. You know, it's that pastor who made a crack about your Niners and you're all upset. It's, you know, and so it's really about if I can recognize when I go dark, when I go negative. Somebody, I had a pastor once use a phrase, I love it. He goes, when I can recognize when I feel like someone's stepping on my oxygen hose. And you're just like, and you're, if you can't immediately recover, it's not that you can't, you'll get triggered. We're human, but if you can't recover quickly, then everything you're about to do is going to be biased by that negative narrative in your head that you're using to justify every decision you're just about to make. So being neutral is critical. I mean, I literally have it on my desk. Here, I'll pull it up here. I had this printed. I don't know if you can see that, where it says get neutral first. And then I have a formula where I talk about confidence, acceptance, and trust. Because our culture, the cause of stress is usually we're afraid of failing, we're afraid of rejection, or we're afraid of risk and the unknown. And we somehow have told ourselves, especially as Americans, you know, I need to be successful, I need to be significant, I need to be in control. Those are all good things. And I'm going to say, no, they're not. What's success only sets you up to be in a battle between success and failure. And you will do things that you really aren't the best version of yourself in order to avoid failure. And I'd rather you committed to confidence. Are you doing your best? Because your best is all you can do. Win or lose, doesn't matter. You look at great athletes. They leave it all out on the field and they walk off the field, and hopefully they have more wins than losses. But what makes an athlete phenomenal is their ability to play their best no matter the scoreboard. Same thing with, you know, significance, you know, especially you're talking about Christians. Goodness gracious. Everybody's trying to do something to get extra, I don't know, heaven points. I don't know. No, accept yourself. Don't worry about whether or not people think you're famous or they recognize you, because no one's rejecting you. You've been accepted more than you'll ever understand already by the divine. Why would you put that acceptance into the hands of other people's opinions? It just doesn't matter. So when you can accept yourself, then you can learn to accept others. right? From that abundance within you. And then control's a myth. I know we all want it, but you can't control the controllables. It doesn't exist. I mean, shucks, if you got a mouth, you can't control that, right? So if you can't control anything, then are you going to have to be subject to the whims of risk and the unknown? I say trust the journey. Trust the journey, because it ends well. And if you have the faith to do that, when unknown things are happening, you don't crumble. You don't crumble. And so that's the key, right? So if I can't be neutral, it's usually because I'm afraid of failing, I'm afraid of rejection, and or I'm afraid of the unknown. And we got to deal with that right off the bat. So that would be my number one starting point for anybody who's a leader, anybody who wants to be the best version of themselves. Learn how to be neutral. Then you can find the most positive outcome out of that place, out of that state, out of that situation.
I love I think it's John Wooden, Wooden on Leadership. He talked about his pyramid of success. And the fascinating thing was he said he had teams that were highly, highly talented that he didn't appreciate because they didn't give it all their effort. And he said he had teams that weren't as talented, but he loved coaching them more than because they gave it all that they possibly could. And it was more on effort than it was actually, and as a byproduct, you become successful according to the success standards. But that is not the aspiration. The aspiration is, man, I got to do my best that I can with the gifts I have.
That's right.
No matter what.
That's right.
And that's I think that's really, really powerful. And so
I actually knew his freshman coach. So the guy who was his freshman coach, and when I would talk to Bob, he'd say, when I recruited Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he called him Lou because he knew him as Lou from this kid from
before he changed,
New York. Yeah. And he said, he went into his house and he's meeting these parents and they're normal size. How tall is this kid? And then here comes Lou ducking under every doorway as he walked into the kitchen and he sat down at the table and his kneecaps were above the tabletop. And he recruited Bill Walton as well. And I asked him, I said, what made Coach Wooden most angry? And it was exactly what you just said. He said, whenever he saw people not doing their best. And that translated into his first lesson, right? How to tie your shoe, because he would teach people how to tie their shoe so that they wouldn't get blisters. And he would say that because if you're getting blisters, you can't play to your best. And gentlemen, that's all I want from you is your best.
And how many did he, what's the record? Is it
8
13 in a row?
What was it? 8 in a row? I don't know. He was on a tear, and he had some horrible teams before then.
Yeah.
He had 12 altogether, but 8 of them in a row, 12 national championships.
8 in a row, which is insane. What the Patriots unfortunately have done over the last 20 years is pretty insane. Like this guy, when we say that, and that was over a 20-year period, he did 8 in a row, which is just pretty remarkable. And so how does somebody that's kind of working through this now, they're like, Tim, I get that. I want to work through this. What's a level of accountability that is it finding a mentor? Is it finding a coach? Is there a school or something that they can, because for me, I need a level of accountability. Yeah. I need someone to kind of get in my face and challenge me a little bit. Yeah. And not everybody's like that, but for someone, because as we know, a lot of times we make a decision, habits and behavior don't catch up always to that decision.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like when I first got saved. I was 18 years old, got saved, made the decision. I was still a terrible kid. And then it took me a long time. It's still taking time, 43 now, to catch up to the decision. And so there's people that make these decisions and then it's kind of, they revert back to, getting mad, getting upset, doing different things. What's the ongoing process for someone's like, I've tried this before, Tim, but I just keep reverting back to the same old me.
Yeah. So let's just pause. Let's talk about this word accountability, because there's so many definitions for what it means. When leaders come to me and say, I want accountability in this organization, we need accountability. Or someone says, I want more personal accountability. I want to be super, super clear. Accountability is not fear-based. Accountability is not based on, I'm worried about a punishment. or I'm going to get a reward. Accountability is trust-based. Accountability is voluntary. I'm raising my hand and being transparent. So I say accountability requires, in this order, trust, visibility, consequence, good and bad. And I have to not begin with consequence, because then I'll either learn to hide, I have my stash of dark chocolate sitting in my special places, or I'll hide that bottle of alcohol in a special place, or I'll only go online and do that stuff when I have private browsing mode on my other whatever, or I'll wait till I'm on the road visiting out of town, and then I'll go to the local whatever. Right. So it's got to begin with trust, and that trust, I got to find somebody I can trust who will then trust me, because I need to be treated with that way. But then that opens the door to visibility. And then I need to be completely visible. I need somebody to know, hey, what did you eat this week? What did you watch this week? Who did you talk to? How did you spend your time when you were alone? And how do we have visibility there? And I have to volunteer for that, but I'm comfortable doing it because I trust that person. So anybody who's gone through a 12-step program know that having someone that you can truly trust and be fully transparent with and say, I completely screwed up this last weekend. Or I'm really going to struggle. I'm ready right now to walk out the door to go do something bad. And I wanted to call you, let you know I'm going to do that. And I'm hoping you'll convince me otherwise. But if you don't, I'm going. And that lack of fear of consequence, I think, is critical. I have to be willing to not deal with the consequence until after I've got the trust established and the visibility. Now consequence can come into play. Now rewards can be have much more depth and meaning, and so can punishments. I ate that chocolate. No candy for me, right? I've got to go. Walk an extra 3 miles. Shucks, but that hamburger was good. It was worth every bite. So you learn how to do that stuff without derailing your path, because we have those cheat days, as we call it. Cheat days are part of high performance. But again, it can't be fear-based, because if it's fear-based, I'm back to that part of my brain that goes into survival mode, and I'm injecting all this other garbage that's going to bias every single decision I'm about to make.
That is so good. I need constraints. I need accountability. I can't. I have to cold turkey things. I've tried dieting for years, and on October 1st, I started a carnivore diet. Did it for 10 days. A buddy came into town from Australia. I'm like, yeah, we're going to get something good to eat.
Yeah.
And then I went up. November 1st, I was like, every single day, I'm going to post a video on YouTube telling people. I did it all the way till December 25th. I lost over 40 pounds, right around 40 pounds. And then my dad came. I've never met him. Right. Probably need to do another podcast on that. But I met my dad for the first time, 40 years. And it was the most incredible thing. Tim. However, I ate some food, and then I'm like, he was here for a week. So I just kind of ate good Persian food. He's Iranian. It had some amazing Persian food. And then when they left, I'm like, and so gained the weight, some of the weight by like 5-6 pounds. So it was not crazy. Back locked in. And here's the thing. When I stopped, I told people on YouTube, I said, if you don't see me upload, it's probably because I've cheated, and I didn't upload for a couple of weeks. And so that was the constraint for me, the level of I trust people. And I was very raw. I was very emotional on just telling people how I felt. And it was that you said is the trust that I had with people and this community that I was building. And so that's what I needed to create a constraint. What if you don't have anyone that you feel that you could trust? Is this more about you, or is it more about them? And are there other things outside of finding someone to, I guess, be there for you? And it's funny you talked about that. I remember about 24 years ago, I was with a buddy, Half Moon Bay, late at night, doing some Bible studies, Bonfire, Half Moon Bay. This is the Bay Area where Tim lived. And so he said this thing, said, hey, we're going to have some open and broken right now. I'm like, what is that? That sounds cool. It rhymes. So no, open and broken is code word for
Mm,
I gotta share my heart. I gotta tell you what I'm
mm,
dealing with, what I'm watching, what I'm doing, what I'm thinking about. And
mm.
so anytime I introduce that with people to open and broken, that's kind of like, hey, we're joking around, we're having fun, but open and broken. Okay. What, like, but not a lot of people, Tim, maybe it's because of them. They're not willing to be vulnerable and risk shame or guilt, however they feel. How do you kind of, if you don't feel like you have friends, or if you're not open to talk to friends, what do you do?
So this is a tough question, because I don't need anyone else to make a major transformation. I can change. Something could happen to me, and I will commit to
Mm,
I'll never let that happen again, or I will never be
mm,
that person again, or
mm,
I have to change who I am, or my health is going to fall apart. Right.
mm.
Um, you can do the change on your own, but you can't be accountable on your own.
Hmm.
So the question is, what are you committing to? Are you committing to change, or are you committing to accountability? And a lot of people like, oh, I can do this on my own. I'll change on my own. I'm good, But the accountability, we're made to be in community. That's part of the human species. We're meant to be
Yes.
connected to other people.
So good.
And that's a core need. That's as essential as breathing. And when you don't have that, I got to question what's getting in your way.
Ooh.
You really don't have anyone. You can't even go to an Alcoholics Anonymous is anonymous for, it's like, I don't know anybody to share this with. Great. Come be anonymous, because everybody in the room can be transparent, and you'll just learn how it works. Why can't you find someone somewhere? And this is why professionally, I have a coach. I have a couple of
Mm,
coaches.
mm.
I think everybody still needs a coach, and I am a
Same.
coach, right?
Same.
I want to invite accountability in my life, and I'll pay money
So
for
good.
it,
So good.
because not my buddies. I've got some smart friends, but a lot of my buddies, they don't know what I do. They don't get what I do. That's not why
This
we're
is good.
friends, right? We're not friends because they've walked this path that I've walked. Now, maybe they have watched me walk it and been there for me, but I still need to make sure that I have accountability in my life if I want to be accountable.
I think that's powerful. I think that's powerful. I have a friend that went through a divorce several years ago,
Mm,
and he went dark for 6 months. Couldn't get a hold of him, and finally we ended up talking. I was like upset, like, man, you didn't feel like you could talk to me. What happened? He's like, and he got really upset. He said, like, what did you want me to do? Tell you I was having struggle? Absolutely. I would have been there for you. I would have drove down. I would have
yeah.
been with you. I just wanted, and I love that you said that. We need each other so much. I heard a pastor one time say, sometimes God hides his voice in community,
Mm,
of people around you
mm,
to connect with you, to talk with you, to help you navigate certain things. And you're hearing it from an extremely successful one day 9-figure entrepreneur and coach here, that we all need each other. Even Tim needs, I need people.
yeah.
I run after mentorship. I run after coaching. I run after accountability, because I am very self-aware. I think that's the key. One of the keys,
Yeah.
very
100%.
self-aware. I am awful. I am awful without community. And that's just a powerful, powerful thing, Tim.
That's
Um,
good.
Man, it's so good. I'm just thinking, when I listen to these, I'm like, man, this is such a good clip for YouTube right here. There's so many clips and so much wisdom here. So the moral of the story is, find someone, and don't be weird. Like, I'm dealing with this. Like, I'm like awful. I've killed people. You know what I mean? Like, just like, hey, I need a friend right now. Listen to me. I actually need a friend. Take them out to coffee, connect with them, whether it's on Zoom. I love the face-to-face. My pastor's been a spiritual father for me. I've always looked for that, and finally have had one over the last several years. And it's been such a game changer. Speaking of accountability, to your point, my friend Sean says health is wealth. It's kind of his thing. He's like, health is wealth. Like, you can't do much. So he's like taking 50 different vitamins. He runs every day, and he's just a machine. However, day 3 for me on carnivore, I started to sleep good. I was waking up at 3 a.m. and go back to bed like 5:30 for
Oh,
half
wow.
an hour. And I
Brutal.
was sleeping so bad. It was so bad. About 2 or 3 o'clock, I'd be like pooped. I'd be so tired. The good thing is I had to pick up my girls, so I get out, get some sunlight. Just so bad. Day 3, slept through the night. And since then, I've slept through the night. What ends up happening is 2 or 3 o'clock comes around. I'm ready to roll. I'm locked in. I haven't had a nap in a long time. And it's just been amazing. And so I'm an advocate, high advocate, being a chubby guy. I'm an advocate of getting your health locked in. That is probably the first thing I would talk to a friend about. There's probably a lot of other things you need to work on, but 100%, I'm such an advocate for health. And I remember seeing you in Hawaii when we had coffee. You looked good. Like, you're looking good from when I first met you.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. Okay. I want to switch gears here to talk a little bit about, like, you are a sales guru. You wrote a few books about it. One of them, I think, is up somewhere. You showed me Sales Chaos.
Yeah, Sales Chaos. I got it somewhere, but yeah.
Sales, like, you cannot be a course creator, a coach, a consultant, an agency owner if you can't sell.
Yeah.
There's so many theories. There's so many books on sales, so many people teaching this stuff. And there's a lot of bad information out there. And you've probably seen a lot more bad information than I know good information. What would you say the secret to sales? Now, let's say someone's like a consultant, kind of like us, coach. What are the secrets to selling your services to someone?
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to go a little theoretical, just because I have to think in terms of frameworks. I have to have kind of a map in my head, and then, okay, we're now here, and let's get to the other side of the mall. So let's separate sales from a couple of things. Let's separate, first of all, sales from innovation, because a lot of companies, especially pharmaceutical and tech, the innovation sells itself. So people say they're sellers, but really the innovation is just so good. Everybody wants Ozempic or whatever the version of that drug is for their company. Everybody, everybody wants the hot innovation. It sells itself, and they think they're amazing at sellers. I remember in the 2008 collapse of the real estate market, how many people I knew who were real estate agents who thought before that they were amazing sellers. And then in 2008, they got exposed as you were not a professional seller. The ones who survived that were. The ones who didn't got exposed, and it was dark. It was really dark. I had some friends who thought they were amazing, and they were like, oh my gosh. And some of them were great sellers, but they were over leveraged on the operations. They were spending money like crazy. So separate your innovation from selling. If there's no problem to solve, you have no value, right? So your innovation is anchored in solving somebody else's problem. Either everybody's got a small problem and they want you to fix it, or they have a small group of people have a big problem and they'll spend money on that. Right. And so you've got to have that innovation. Now, separate sales from marketing. Marketing is really around how you figure out what your path is going to be. And I talk about, the classic 4 Ps, there's product, price, placement, and promotions. Right. So marketing isn't just how you promote. And it's not the place where you do your business, whether it's online, virtual, or face-to-face, or in a shop, or whatever. The price, you got to figure that out. That's part of your strategy as well. And then, of course, the value itself. Is the product? Is it a service, et cetera? I add a 5th P, and that's path. And it's what's the buyer's path? What's the journey that they're going on? So right off the bat, when I want to diagnose whether somebody's doing a good job of selling, I go, what part of the path are you engaging that buyer? Are you showing up at the end where I just need them to buy something, and you haven't been part of any of their research, any of their analysis, haven't helped them think through? So if you're actually trying to, quote, sell, but really selling is that whole path. So selling takes all 5 of those P's. And so it's okay, how can I turn that into real conversations? And then you get into conversation technique, skill, science, and all that, the psychology of buying and whatnot. But I always go back to, where are you at in the path, and are there gaps? So I work with clients who they may have this great innovation, really cool. They put it out there on a website, but there's nothing to nurture between the initial click on that website to see, oh, you exist, all the way through. We have to prioritize our budget. What are we going to spend money on this year? We're deciding to go buy that because it's part of a larger initiative and it fits into our strategy. Now we need to shortlist a different number of options. And you just go from from presentation on a website to let me give you a quote for a price, you've missed a
Yeah.
huge part of that journey that you haven't nurtured. And there's people need help making great decisions. And so if you're a professional seller, you're a professional server. If you're not serving, you're not selling. So my goal is to come in and serve people throughout that journey so that when they are ready, like, you know, Alejandro, I love it. I'm in on what you're selling. I love it. I'm a little worried about the price. Can you talk to me about, you know, well, let's have that conversation. But I've nurtured you to the point where you understand the value that I'm offering. You understand the potential ROI. Is it really about price or is it just about timing? Because maybe it's not the right time for you. Let's because the price isn't going to change because the value is so strong. The ROI is so strong that let's wait a couple months. But let me now, salesperson, I'll keep engaged with you. And I'm not going to just shine you on because you didn't buy my stuff. I want to serve you. And 6 months from now, you may be in a better position. Now you're ready to make that investment and say, I will buy now, but I didn't walk away and ignore you. I maintained a community where I just stayed part of your journey.
So good. So good. When most people think sales and when they're probably on YouTube searching for stuff, they're looking for like Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street. Give me the sales script so I can close people.
Yeah.
The problem with that whole model, Tim, is your refund rates and chargebacks are probably through the roof because you've had to twist someone's arm to get them to buy something. And what Tim is saying is you got to build some relationship with them. You got to nurture them. You got to, most importantly, serve them well. And you're like, well, how do I serve them? You got to ask some questions and find out what their biggest pain points are right now. Not the pain points 12 months from now or 12 years from now, but what do they have right this moment? And that's serving. Like how I think of Jesus, like, you know, it's like, oh, you're thirsty, you know what I mean? Like I remember, bro, I'm tangent. I remember when I went to Bible school and people were like, hey, we're going to go pass out tracts. I thought it was the dumbest thing ever, Tim. It's like, why would you pass out tracts? It sounds, hey, Jesus loves you. That's literally, hey, Jesus loves you. Just and look, I need to retract a little bit, getting a little excited. Maybe that serves a purpose. So me and a few of my friends, we went to take toothbrushes and toothpaste to, you know, homeless people in Sacramento, California. And we talked with them and we spent time with them. We learned about how they got to that point. Why they wanted toothbrushes. They didn't need someone to tell me Jesus loves them. And so I think a lot like that when it comes to sales. I'm serving these people in the ministry, but man, I'm actually serving like, what is your pain point? And I've actually had, Tim, where I've talked to people about, man, my wife just left me, or and that's what they need at that moment versus no heart. I'm just going to close you so I can make some money because it serves me well versus I'm going to find out if this is even a good fit for you. And if I sell you hard, which I don't mind doing, it's going to serve you because you need it right now. Why do you think so people are obsessed with like this closer style of sales versus the unsexy part of serving and nurturing?
I think it goes back to those core drives. Are you trying to be successful, significant, and in control? Or are you trying to be confident, accepting, and trusting? Right? So what's the game that you're playing? Do you need those numbers? Do you need those numbers to justify your value to yourself? Do you need those results to make you feel like you're doing a good job?
Yeah.
Because doing a good job may or may not give you the result you're looking for. I'll go back to a sport example, but I remember, and I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I have tremendous respect for the turnaround. They went 1-15 one year, the next year 5-11, or 5-10, and then 5-11. The next year 9 and whatever. But they had 4 wins improvement year over year, and then they won the Super Bowl.
This 90s.
This is the 90s Cowboys with Troy Aikman.
This is when they traded Herschel Walker.
Yes.
which everyone right around that time frame, which at the time, if you're not a sports fan, like Herschel was like probably the greatest athlete ever in history of mankind. Like, guy's just a beast, right? They traded, everyone thought they were crazy. And with all those picks, it was Jim Johnson. They got Emmitt Smith and Troy. They got some really good picks.
Yeah.
And they became the dynasty in the 90s as a result of that.
They were really good. And so doing the right thing will eventually give you the right result. So there's a level of patience that you have to sit with as a business owner. And I'm not going to get commission breath, right? I'm not going to be all in your face, heavy breathing, trying to get my commission because, I need it. Right. But that's often fear-based, right? So I'm already fear-based and it just never works. What people don't like to be sold to, right? They like to buy, but they like to buy when they have confidence behind it. So let's go one level below this. So my number one goal is to build your confidence that you're making the right decision. When I'm selling, I want your confidence, because if your confidence is low, I won't sell. You won't make it. You'll stay status quo. You just do with what you've always done because you don't have any confidence to change what you've done. But I have 4 things I can do. And this is research we did. One of the books I did was World-Class Selling. We did research. We went through literally around the globe with a ton of high-end companies, said, what do your top sellers have? They had 4 qualities. And I'll just paraphrase it. Number 1, they knew how to have credibility. Every great seller has good credibility. You know how to show up on time. You know how to be ethical in your communications and decisions. You know how to use technology. You're not, you're able to be very credible in just to, be a quote professional, as we used to say. From that, because you have to have that first. From that, there's 3 other things I need to add. I need to add influencing skills. How can I influence you? How can I present stuff in a way so that I can help you by getting other things done through other people? And that influence not only transcends to my relationship with the customers, but also within my own team. The next thing is insight. Do I know how to generate insight? Not just questioning skills. It's not a script. It's how do I get beyond the obvious? How do I observe things? How do I think about things? How do I ask those questions so that I can see beyond the obvious? And then more importantly, I can get you as the customer to see beyond the obvious. And I need to have as much, if not more insight than you do. So you go, oh, A, you're super credible, and B, you're helping my confidence level go up. And then the last thing is so critical is how I execute. Do I follow through on what I said I would do? Do I make sure stuff gets done? If something goes wrong, how quickly do I fix it? Because stuff will go wrong. How quickly do I make sure that what was promised is what was delivered? And then do I follow through on all of that stuff? And if I do those 4 things, I promise you, negotiations will be easier. Prospecting will be easier. Demonstrations will be easier. Customer business reviews will be easier because I have those 4 habits already in place. But if I'm not doing those 4 things, there is no magic script. There is no magic negotiation technique. There is no magic closing. None of that stuff works without those 4 things in place, because I use those 4, summary point, to make you confident you're making the right choice.
And I love, it's Richard Sherman, former Seahawk, recently a Niner. He says confidence is a prerequisite. Having that confidence. And one question I have when it comes to confidence, though, is, to me, clarity. There's a level of clarity that for me brings confidence. Where does clarity play in the role? Like, I gotta go somewhere. Yeah. I gotta be clear, because clarity, I want to be confident when I'm doing, but I don't know where I'm going. How much does clarity play a role in those, in the confidence, having confidence?
It's big, right? So the clarity piece, I need to make sure you're clear on what you're trying to achieve, but I also need to make sure you're clear on what the problem is. Why are we pursuing an outcome if we're not clear on what the problem is? And that happens a lot, especially more complex selling. But if I walk in, let's just make it really, really calm. Everybody knows I'm going in to buy a car. Yeah. technically all I need is get from A to B, but I'm looking for some status, or I'm looking for some reliability. I don't want to buy something that's going to cost a lot of money every time I bring it in, whatever those things. Or, there's a time in my life I need to make sure I had little video screens on the back of the headrest of the driver front seat, so that my kids could watch stuff and be quiet while we drove on long trips. Whatever my definition of the problem is, I need clarity on that. And a lot of buyers don't have that. They're overwhelmed with information. There's too much. They don't specific, like you want to lose weight. Why? I just know I need to. Well, is it body issues? Is it heart issues? Is it, are you pre-diabetic? Why do you have to lose weight? Well, I've got a reunion coming up and I want to look good, right? Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that, right? So now we can talk about what the solution could be. And the solution may be health services, but it could also be fashion consulting. You know what? You've never been a small person, but we're going to make you look sharp. We're going to make you look really good, because you want to walk in that room and you want people to go, wow, there's something about you that's awesome. And it's not because you're skinny. It's because you look good. Right. Or whatever. So that whole idea of getting people to be clear on the problem, clear on the solution, requires they got to get neutral first. So can you help them? Because if the actual outcome is they just trying to be successful, significant, or in control, that's a much tougher sales cycle. Now, you may be selling to that. Good for you. It's not what I do. I actually want people to be the best version of themselves. When I help a company, it says on my tagline, I want to help organizations be the best versions of themselves. That's why we do what we do over here at Kupu Solutions.
Man, this is just fire. And I love, and I hope I don't butcher it, to have confidence. It is, it's credibility, influence, insight, and execution. The interesting thing, as you were talking about that, not only is that a great framework and formula for getting clients, as important, it is a great way to keep and retain
100%.
Existing clients that you can have. Right? It's the execution. And as we wrap up, I want to hear you have this idea and concept framework called strategic execution. And so when you talk about this, I'm just like, holy cow, I'm getting like an MBA in sales here. Can you talk a little bit about why strategic execution, what is it, and how it can help folks that are trying to grow their businesses?
Yeah. So I have so many conversations with leaders. I mean, all the time. And they're frustrated with how they're executing, either how they themselves are executing or how their team is executing their strategy. And when I ask them, so how do you teach strategic execution? The most common answer I get is A, trial and error. We just figured it out. We just figured it out. Or B, they're not. They're just hiring, quote, good people, and they'll figure it out. And we just hope that they do it. And then of course they're in their back, but is it working? No. So I know somebody's eventually going to get fired, and it might even be the person I'm talking with. So when you dive into this topic of strategic execution, there's a ton of stuff around strategic planning, strategic thinking. It's out there. But when you actually get into strategic execution and you actually go into like Amazon, the strategic or strategy word reduces over 95%. You get a much, much smaller hit around this concept of execution because people aren't talking about it. So let me now define it. Strategic execution is how we make decisions to execute the strategy. It is not the plan. And too many people say, we have a plan. We have Gantt charts on project management. Project management is not execution. It's a way of organizing the strategy. You can hand it over to other people. But the number one reason that we fail to execute our strategies is poor decision-making. So my model is I teach people how to make great decisions in that order so that they're executing that strategy. And the number one obstacle that has to be addressed is the lack of clarity. People don't know the scope of the strategy, they're not clear on goals and roles, and they're certainly not clear on priorities. And we've got to lock that stuff down. And if we can lock down clarity, then we can now work on immediately how we're making sure we're empowering people. And if people aren't empowered to meet an expectation that you've made super, super clear, you're being a bad leader. It's demotivating to people to be told to do something they can't do. So why do I do this? Because I deal with sellers a lot, but not just sellers. I deal with anybody. they're struggling to get their execution on track, and sellers are frustrated because they can't hit their numbers because they're not being empowered because the company is not clear on what the priorities are and what the goals and the roles are and all the other stuff. So you do those two things, you begin to immediately unlock the rest of the model. And the rest of the model, I'll just go quickly, is after clarity and empowerment, you have got to address the lack of engagement. People have to believe it's the right thing for them and the company, not just the right thing for the company. And they have to put in that extra effort to figure stuff out when there is a gap in the empowerment, but that's going to happen. But they know how to fill that with human energy. Then fourth, accountability. If there's a lack of accountability, I cannot generate it without clarity, empowerment, and engagement established first. And then lastly, culture. The culture just doesn't make it work. The culture just doesn't fit. The culture just gets in the way. We've been talking about churches. A lot of churches that have cultures that won't allow a new strategy. And so how do you start changing that? Because it is a wheel. The culture does become the energy for what you can make clear and not. Start with generating clarity around small wins. Get some stuff moving. Get some shift happening. Get that clarity. Use that clarity to really drive way better empowerment. You'd be shocked at how much waste is out there in every business because they're empowering things that aren't on priority. They're taking resources away for something that shouldn't be a priority. Or they're taking stuff that should be a priority and putting it with things that shouldn't be. And then you watch your engagement rise, then your accountability. People will voluntarily rate what we talked about. They'll be more visible. There's a trust that's developing within the team. That energy starts transforming into something that will shift that culture. And that culture will say, you know what? We've never done it like this way before, but let's do it. We believe it. We've seen the momentum we're in. So that's the whole strategic execution thing in a nutshell. And if you want to know more, there's a podcast, How to Not Execute Your Strategy. Find it on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever. Don't just type in Tim Ohai because you'll get me as a guest on a lot of other podcasts as well, but look for How to Not Execute Your Strategy with Tim Ohai. And I talk to CEOs and other leaders about two things. Tell me about a time your strategy didn't go as planned. What'd you learn? So we're diving into their failures and what they learned from it. And then what are 2 or 3 attributes everybody in the organization should have? And you're going to get their best practices at the same time.
Bro, I love it. And we'll drop those links as well as where to connect with you in the show notes as well. Tim, what are you most proud of yourself? Like, what are you most proud of that you've done, that you've accomplished, that's happened? Like when you just look at it, it's maybe hard to say or what have you, but what are you most proud of?
I keep getting better. There's a wonderful Greek word concept, teleos, right? It's that sense of being the best version of yourself, being what you were meant to be. Transparently, I just had a wonderful conversation with my son last weekend, who's in his early 20s. And he said, Dad, I want you to know you're my friend. I love you. And there was a time in our relationship that wasn't there. And he even said, he goes, Joey, he's such a smart aleck. He goes, I want you to know I love you. And I really mean it. There was a time I didn't.
Wow.
There was a time I didn't. And that's what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of that I can have the self-awareness to work on myself and be the best version of myself, that I can redeem the jerk that I was when cancer first hit our family and all the other stuff that we've gone through. And then of course, when Diana died, no, you don't have a playbook for this. You don't have instructions, or how do you become a widower and a single dad in one breath. Right. That's what I'm most proud of.
Man. Yeah, when it comes to family, bro, that's where you get me. Get me with kids. You always get me. That's beautiful. This is a masterclass on leadership and sales, and getting better every single day. It just inspires me. How can I get like 1% better every single day? That stacks, that compounds, and I love that. One question follow up on that. What advice do you have for parents that, I've got 14 and 15-year-old that's the age it's like, start seeing everything now, and everything's kind of, working against a lot of the core beliefs and values that you try to instill. Like, what advice do you have for parents that maybe you look back and I wish I would have done this differently?
If I were to reduce it to a simple statement, I would say this: you're not God. Quit trying to be God. Trust the journey. Your journey's worked out. Let God work on theirs. Trust the journey. Take your hands off and become someone who serves them, who inspires confidence, acceptance, and trust. Because if you're only worried about, are they going to fail? Are they going to be rejected? Are they going to, are they inviting and generating risk? You're not neutral. You're in a dark place, and you cannot parent from there.
Yeah, that's so good. For me, where I grew up, you're just like, you think you got to protect them, right? And so that's like early on, that's how I was. And I've had to relinquish talking to mentors and friends. And that is so good. Confidence, acceptance, and trust. In the 70s, they used to say, you remember, used to call him Cat Daddy?
Yeah.
Cat Daddy. Confidence, acceptance.
I have one client. He says, Tim, I wrote it on my computer. Think like a cat. And that's how he remembers it.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Well, Cat Daddy, last question for you is, what is your definition of the holy hustle?
It's using your work as a service to everyone. Your work is your ministry. And if you're not serving, what are you doing? So I don't care whether it's, I've been a church employee, and I've been a secular employee, and I've been everything in between. And, God doesn't care about our paychecks. He doesn't care about our bonuses. He doesn't care about our financial. He cares about who we are and how we live that out. And a God of love and a God of grace is more motivated by us showing love and grace to others than by anything else.
Drop the mic. Tim, I love you, man. This has been so amazing. I love you, bro. That you're this is just inspiring. I know we get the chance to hang out a ton these days, and just so grateful for who you are. Grateful that, you didn't let that thing completely take you out for good. The situation with your wife, and, the ability to still inspire, and with the passion, with urgency, with care, to serve people, man. So I'm blessed, and I'm grateful for you. And for those that are watching, make sure to connect with Tim. I'll put his LinkedIn, Instagram, I'll put his website, put the podcast links below, and make sure
and
to
my link tree.
Check him
out. My link tree is the easiest one. And just go to my link tree, and then it's all there.
It's all there. We'll go to the link tree. So we'll drop it right below the link tree for you to connect with all that. Tim, love you, bro. Appreciate you. And thanks so much for watching, y'all. We'll see you.